This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
This episode is brought to you by Global X. Since 2008, Global X ETFs has been committed to empowering investors with unexplored, intelligent solutions. Global X specializes in exchange-traded funds that offer exposure to the artificial intelligence ecosystem, including themes like data centers, robotics, semiconductors, and cloud computing. To learn more about Global X's entire suite of ETFs, from covered calls, fixed income, emerging markets, and more, visit globalxetfs.com.
Welcome back to another episode of Investies. This week on the podcast, this episode is going to be different. It's going to be different because it has been, I can't even complain about the last week. It's just been a whirlwind of things that are taking place. And instead of me trying to gather content and put together this nice and clean episode, I thought that it would be important for me to just share what I'm moving through. In my other podcast that I had years ago from 2016 to 2019, I was always open and transparent about what I was moving through on a week-to-week basis. This podcast is a lot different, but I think it's also important for me to share moments like the type of moment that I am having right now. I'm recording this episode on Sunday, November 17th, and I would be lying to you if I said that it isn't hard for me to work to get this episode out today. I have so much to do in these next couple of hours, and quite honestly, I would much rather just spend time with my son until I have to leave again to another hotel. But I also have this commitment, and I know that I could absolutely message Eliza and Jacob and let them know that I'm overwhelmed and I'm not able to get this out, and they would work with me to do so. I think it's also important for me to just have a real and raw moment of some of the things that I am moving through and some of the sacrifices that folks in these spaces of being a public servant move through. We are all human. We have different titles like mother, sister, partner, friend. And right now, it truly feels like I am failing everyone in my life. To recap, I was in Austin last week for the most part of last week, drove back Thursday. Straight from driving back from Austin, I walked into the meeting with Fed Chair Powell, got to hear him speak live, as you all know, and then went into another meeting after that event. On Friday, I went to go with my grandmother. She became a U.S. citizen, so they had their immigration U.S. citizen ceremony. I got to go in there with her and be a part of it. I was her designated translator. It was such an honor to get to spend a couple of hours with her through this process. I also went with her to get the exam several weeks ago done. When she passed it, I was also her official translator there. Very special moment. I got to really bond with her, which was extremely necessary for the both of us. Such a beautiful experience. Straight from the ceremony on Friday, I went to 3 meetings back to back, rushed to try and pick up my son from school. I then realized that I was not going to be able to make it on time to pick him up. I quickly called his aunt, and she graciously said yes. She went to pick him up immediately so that he wouldn't be picked up late from school and be that kid. I then rushed home, got ready as fast as I could to head out to the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight. This was a work event. I was there with other elected officials and lobbyists. It was fun, did my best to try and disconnect and just be present and enjoy the experience. As a shareholder of Netflix, I was looking at the entire experience from a investor's perspective. I was extremely worried when I started to see social media pop off and saying that streaming wasn't working, that it was buffering. It will be interesting to see how this all shakes out on Monday and if it is impacted by what happened or if this actually is a catalyst for another leg up for Netflix. Currently, Netflix is trading at around $825, which is amazing. I obviously still see so much growth and so much potential for Netflix as it continuously evolves and works to be the leader in its space. The next day, on Saturday, I joined our current representative in my area as well as other local leaders. We passed out 200 turkeys along with some vegetables. That was a really great experience just to be able to provide, food for our local community members in our district, which is always needed. I do live in a lower income district. And so it was an honor to get to participate in that. And then, here I am on Sunday recording this episode. And also, as soon as I'm done with this, I need to figure out outfits for tonight and the rest of the week, which I think is something that women don't really talk about, at least in leadership positions. Like we have to be polished. And yes, so do men, but it's different. Men can just throw on a suit and tie, and it's different, especially for women that like fashion. I like fashion, so I'm about to go into my closet and stress about my outfits for the entire week. This evening, I'm headed to check into a hotel in Arlington, right next to the Cowboys Stadium, and I'm headed over this evening to Ross Perot's ranch, which is really crazy to say. I'm headed there with other elected officials and city leaders. On Monday, I have 2 tours, starting off with the Toyota headquarters. I'll again be there with colleagues. And after that, we're going to head over to Dallas Independent School District Career Institute for another tour. And then in the evening, we are all headed to the Dallas Cowboys Stadium to go watch Monday Night Football with the Cowboys versus Houston. After the game, I will then head to downtown Dallas to another hotel where I will be met with other Latino newly elected officials. We are going through a 3-day training where we are going to move through what to expect during legislation, what to expect in ethics. Most folks on the panel and moving through the training sessions will be Latinos, so it's going to be taught from a Latino perspective, which I think is incredibly beneficial. And, I do look forward to all of these experiences, but it's also a lot to have to move through continuously. It feels like there's something really big happening every single hour that I have to move myself into. And to be completely honest, I am looking at my schedule for the first time with you for the next couple of days right now in real time. I cannot be in Austin and look to see what's happening over the weekend or what's happening in the following week, just like I can't be at this Latino elected official training and then worrying about next week. I have to just be present and in the moment. I have found that moving in this way really helps me not get too overwhelmed because I am not mentally prepared to move through what I need to move through next week. Like next week, I'm hosting Thanksgiving. I haven't gone shopping. I haven't done any of that yet. If I start to think about that right now, forget about it. I know that after Thanksgiving, I'm headed back to Austin for an entire week and a half for nonstop events and another training session. it will consume me. I have found through this process that I am mostly in my power when I move in real time and I'm present for what I need to do right now. I have to admit, as soon as I woke up this morning, I was overwhelmed with the idea of having to record this podcast. And part of that is because I was so focused on all of the things that I had to do this afternoon, and also just kind of breaking away from my family. That's always really challenging for me to move through. But as soon as I just started focusing on this episode and being present here, all of the anxiety for what's going to happen in the next few hours just dissipated. I am mostly in my power when I am present. And I think that we are taught to be planners and look ahead. And I have found specifically through this process since becoming a candidate for Texas State Representative that it is not beneficial for me to look ahead, that it is much more important for me to be present and worry about what is taking place right now and know that whatever it is I need to do in the evening or tomorrow, I will be prepared for that in the evening and tomorrow.
Time to play Best Fins and match game with a zest. Among millions of players, can you become the best? No need to invest. Your free download awaits. With 9,000 levels, you'll be quite impressed. No Wi-Fi needed. Just be our guest. At Best Fins, you'll be gaming at your best. Download Best Fins for free now. No need to wait. Wait? That doesn't rhyme. Never mind. Download Best Fins. It's great. Available in App Store and Google Play.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
When I decided that I was going to go ahead and become a candidate to run for office as Texas State Representative, I told myself that I was going to demystify the space, pull back the curtain, and show you all what is taking place. I don't know in what platform or where I plan to do this. I suppose I plan to do it on my Instagram account. You all, I do not post, I would say, not even a quarter of the events that I'm attending, of the meetings that I'm in, or what I'm learning through this process, because I just can't. This is the first time I share my schedule with you. It has been like this nonstop. I thought it would slow down after elections, and it's truly not. It's gearing up. I hope to do some more demystifying once I'm actually in office and go through that process. But here in today's episode, I shared some behind the scenes. I do apologize for not giving you some robust episode on what's taking place in the market. I know I told you I was going to share what Fed Chair Powell shared on Thursday. And the truth is, one of the reasons I'm so stressed out about it is because we are so well versed on what is happening. He did not share a new perspective or anything of that sort. Everything he said, all of us that listen to this podcast, we already know. We know the CPI, we know the PPI, we know the GDP, we know the inflation levels, we know how much he's cut back on interest rates. We already know all the things. And so there really wasn't anything new to share. He did have a sit-down conversation with a reporter, and he was asked really great questions, but Fed Chair Powell pushed back on the questions and did not want to answer. One of the questions he was asked was on tariffs, if he felt that tariffs were in actuality going to create inflation. He really took a stance and said that it wasn't his place to speculate on what is going to take place, that they are going to take it on a day-by-day basis and look at all of the data that is coming in and then take actions to deal with any potential inflation. I'm paraphrasing, but he basically stepped back. He didn't want to get caught in the web of answering or giving his political perspective on the matter, which I completely understand. The other big question he was asked was on immigration, and given the amount of deportation that Donald Trump has said he was going to execute, if this was going to, in fact, hurt the economy. He did the same thing, pushed back, did not want to directly answer the question. She did ask, in the past, when we've seen deportations, what have we seen? Does the GDP shrink? And he did kind of give a little insight there. He said, in the past, we do see production levels dropping. And she pushed back again. Can you tell us what it means or what happens when production levels drop? And he says, you can pretty much guess what happens. He really just steered clear. And I get it. He doesn't want to be involved. He said multiple times, my job is not to comment on any political issues that are unfolding. My job is to look at the economy and see how it is being impacted in real time. I can't speculate on the impact. I have to act basically on what is taking place in the present, kind of like this episode. I have to focus and not speculate on the future because I will lose myself. Honestly, it was an honor, an absolute honor to get to be present there. I took pictures of him. I did not actually get to meet him in person. He was in and he was out. But I got to be in close proximity and in the same room, and that was good enough for me. I do hope that maybe one day I can impact the space that he is in, be part of the space that he is in. But for now, it was just simply an honor to get to live this out. Coming from where I come from, these things don't happen. I got to meet a man, his name is Mr. Black. I had breakfast with his son a couple of weeks ago, and Mr. Black was so gracious. He is a businessman here. His son is now running his businesses. And Mr. Black asked me, how was the experience? What did you think? And I told him my appreciation and admiration for Fed Chair Powell. And he shared this beautiful story with me, how he once, when he was younger, also admired a president of the United States and wrote that president a letter, and the president flew him out, and he got to spend, I want to say, 2 weeks with him in close proximity. And so Mr. Black said, I want you to go home and write Fed Chair Powell a letter. I found him so endearing, and it makes me emotional because, he was just so old school and write this letter. He told me, he said, the fact that you know who this man is and that you understand all of the things he talked about today makes you really special. And he said, and I mean that. I'm not just saying that you're special. I really, truly mean that. And so I hope you go home and write this letter. And so now I'm actually contemplating just to do right by Mr. Black and send a letter to Fed Chair Powell. And I guess you never know. Mr. Black did share how him writing a letter to the president and getting to spend weeks with the president when he was much younger completely changed his life. He said it put him in the path that he was in today. And, he also went on to share that he too was a teen dad, and it was just such a great conversation. I was so happy to be there. And while I do have moments of overwhelm and wanting to be with my son or wanting to just be the homebody that I am and be at home disconnecting, not having to be an extrovert because I am an introvert, but I present as an extrovert. I get to have these incredible experiences where I see people that I admire and then meet folks like Mr. Black. Aside from being a public servant and wanting to do the absolute best to represent my district, I also get access. Mom guilt does kick in, but I know that I am giving my son so much accessibility and connections, and this is going to be beneficial for the future of my family. I mean, in a couple of weeks, we are having breakfast with Santa at the Capitol. My beautiful brown boy is going to be in the Capitol having breakfast with Santa. These things don't just happen. They are experiences that were reserved for folks that didn't look like us. They were reserved for the elite, and we're getting to be in these spaces. And I can only imagine what this is going to do to the makeup of his beliefs, how this is going to open up his mind and the potential for the things that he can achieve when he's older. I do believe that it is very important for him to also see me doing something that is in full alignment with me. I think a lot of the times when we think about something being in alignment, we think that the outcome or the process is going to be perfect. And from my perspective, that is never the case. If we are stretching, then you better believe that when you stretch, you are going to encounter moments of resistance, you're going to encounter pain, you're going to encounter discomfort and changes. And so that's just part of the process, and it's important for him to see me moving through this. And on today's episode of Investies, I felt that it was also important for you to hear me move through this as well. You're listening to Investies. I'm your host, Linda Garcia. Investies is a Cosmic Standard and In Luz We Trust production. A special thank you to the team, Eliza Smith, Asia Simpson, and Jacob Winnick.